You are listening to the Modern Polyamory Podcast, a podcast all about polyamory, ethical non-monogamy, swinging, kinks, and more. Now, let's get on to the show. Hi, welcome to Modern Polyamory. I'm Jan. This is Kyle.
Hello.
And we realized that we got very ahead of ourselves. So today we're going to take it all the way back and answer a very basic question. What is polyamory?
Absolutely. To cover all our bases, we're going to the core. What is polyamory? A lot of people ask us this, and we forget that it's just because it's so common of knowledge to us now that it's not in everyone's vocabulary.
It's true.
So what are some things that polyamory isn't?
So polyamory is not just cheating with extra steps.
It's true.
Polyamory is not is a subgenre of ethical non-monogamy.
Yes, there's different types, yes.
It's not swinging.
It's not?
No, it's not.
It's different.
It's a little different.
A little different than swinging.
So those are some things that it's not.
Sure.
One of the things that it is very heavily relational based.
Yeah.
So where some things may be more sexual based, ethical non-monogamy gives people an excellent avenue to explore their sexuality in a way that, polyamory does the same thing, but it also says, let's explore the way that relationships can be varied and different and many and multiple. But do they have to all look the same?
No, they don't.
No.
Absolutely.
There are two umbrella terms. One of them is ethical non-monogamy.
Uh-huh.
One of them is consensual non-monogamy. And there are slight differences between the two.
Okay. What are those?
So the first one that sticks out to me is that in the academic community, they like to use consensual non-monogamy.
Uh-huh.
And in the social community, they like to use ethical non-monogamy. I think that it really all boils down to the fact that consensual non-monogamy, that denotes consent, but just because there's consent involved doesn't mean that it is completely ethical.
Right.
You may know, but you're doing it on us.
Right. So they're not exactly interchangeable then.
Right. No, they are not exactly interchangeable.
Okay. So just to get it clear, just because I've gotten consent doesn't mean what I'm doing is ethical.
Correct.
And that's where the difference lies.
Correct.
Consensual and ethical non-monogamy.
Right. Because we have these different kinds of don't ask, don't tell, only ask when told.
Right.
Type things. And those kinds of arrangements are perfectly fine if that's what the couple wants to do.
Right.
But when you start getting into the logistics of the don't ask, don't tell, you've got a lot of stuff going on that you're not talking about.
Absolutely.
So it can get into that unethical kind of thing, even though there's consent, like, hey, I know you're out, you're doing, I don't want to know the details, but then those details get trampled on.
Gotcha. So does this include the implied consent with traditional monogamy where you're in that early on dating phase where you're not quite serious, so maybe you're seeing a few people, but you don't really communicate that, you just assume that because it's so early on? Does that fall under ethical non-monogamy?
I don't think it falls under ethical non-monogamy.
Okay.
It is a form of non-monogamy.
Is it consensual non-monogamy?
I think that it is consensual non-monogamy as long as all of the people that you're dating and interacting with understand that you're not going to be just with them, that you're dating around, you're seeing other people, people hook up culture.
That's true.
It's consensual if it's on the up and up. But if you're trying to hide it, or you're playing multiple people trying to decide which one you want to pick, this is a very monogamous thing.
Right. Absolutely. So the consensuality and the ethicality of it can vary wildly depending on your brand of relationship.
Exactly. So where did it all come from? Were we born on this planet monogamous?
Well, I don't know. We were just I didn't choose to be born.
It's definitely, humanity. It's definitely a situation where monogamy has become the default.
Sure.
So was it always that way?
No, we've come from tribal existences for a long time, and that was not very monogamous, if you look
Right.
back on that. And then, once civilization kicked up, the church had a lot to do with it.
Yes.
So that's an interesting topic, definitely to explore.
For sure. And then also the fact that monogamy became so big because of the church, and then these countries that were heavily ruled by this church colonized the rest of the world. And so that is how we all kind of ended up with monogamy as a default.
Yeah. So you just, so I guess we're saying maybe it's one big church psyop.
It's possible, yeah.
They're in cahoots with the Hallmark Channel.
Yes, exactly.
To push traditional monogamous relationships on us.
For sure. So, what would you say is something that is like your lived experience with non-monogamy? You consider yourself to be polyamorous? Do you consider yourself to be ethically non-monogamous, or some mixture of the two?
Yeah, I would say probably some mixture of the two. I definitely enjoy the polyamory side. I like building relationships with people, and cultivating those connections, those deeper connections.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that for me, it's always about the deeper connections, and that's why I tend to gravitate towards polyamory as opposed to some of the other forms of expression. Everything is valid and every dynamic is like a snowflake, and it's what makes this so hard to study in an academic setting. But if we all kind of admit that like it doesn't look the same, everybody's different, we all show up different, because some people could say, I'm into polyamory, but then they only have like situationships or friends with benefits on the side, and that's not really polyamory. It can be.
It can be. You can be really involved with a comet.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
So that's not, I think, there's all sorts of different kind of romances that could count as poly. But there's definitely a lot of casual things that definitely wouldn't either.
Exactly. I think that, casual, I have this thing with casual where I say, I can do casual if we sit down and we talk about what we want to do and how we want to show up for each other, and casual is the answer. I will always say, I will do casual, but I want to do it for a long time.
Sure.
Like, let's do casual, let's play it safe, we won't try and have a relationship, but like, let's do this for a long time.
Sure.
Yeah, keeps the body count low.
So,
when you find what you like and you just stick with it.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
But at the same time, it's not, bad to have one night stands, things like that, as long as everybody's on the same page.
Yeah, as long as everybody knows, then it's consensual. And as long as nobody's getting hurt,
right,
then it's ethical, and yeah, it's fun, right?
Yeah, and that's like the big focus here, is that everything is well communicated, well discussed, everything's on the up and up.
Yes.
You know what's going on.
So that is polyamory.
Polyamory. You know what's going on.
The 101. So now we've gotten that out of the way, and I feel like people are probably going to be better off to know what we're talking about when we say modern polyamory.
Sure, absolutely. We have somewhere to point them if they ever ask.
Exactly. And we're going to put some more information up on the website, on the blog, www.modernpolyamory.com.
Absolutely. Every single one of these topics we cover here in the podcast gets a blog article along with it, where we take a deeper dive. So be sure to check that out. Do you have a question for us? Join our Discord server. Do you want to do that again?
Yeah.
There it was falling off. You're like, oh, God.
Do you have a question?
You have a question for us, like what's going on with Jen's hair? Join our Discord server where you'd be encouraged to ask such things.
I log in at least once a day to make sure that I'm getting to know you all, and there will be an invitation link on our website, www.modernpolyamory.com.
Absolutely. Go check it out right now.
Right now. Go.
You thought we were done. Just kidding. More modern polyamory coming right at you.
Welcome back to Modern Polyamory.
That's right, folks.
We have covered Polyamory 101. Just to refresh, polyamory is many loves. So this is a heavily relational form of consensual non-monogamy or ethical non-monogamy. And so the next thing that obviously people are going to want to know is, how does all this work?
Yes, how does polyamory work?
I often say, like, it doesn't work. Polyamory doesn't work. People work together to make polyamory happen.
Right.
But just on its own, it does not work. There's so many moving parts.
Sure.
Every dynamic is different. It's very hard to have a standardized rule set. So we're not talking about rules. We're talking more about a toolkit or a framework that's flexible.
Yeah. And it's like that could, every relationship is work, whether
for sure
you're just 2 or you're 22. It's going to be a lot of work. And if you don't work at it, things grow old and cold and not very fun anymore.
For sure.
And that can be shed for any relationship.
It's true. So let's talk about some of the more common structures in polyamory. So absolutely. I think one of the ones that is mostly debated nowadays is this idea of the hierarchical relationship. So when I first got into polyamory, everybody was calling their nesting partner the primary.
Right. And
then calling their other partners who are not their nesting partners their secondary partners.
Sure, yeah. And this was my introduction to polyamory. There was a lot of that talk too.
Yeah. So now I think that people are going for a more egalitarian approach. And honestly, the first time that I kind of got wind of this and heard this was over the summer. I hosted a book club. We read Polysecure and talked about different things. And I had said something about my secondary partner or something like that, talking about my ex.
But
and one of the participants was like, we're trying to not have hierarchy be centered in our dynamics anymore. And using language like primary and secondary partner is part of that hierarchical structure. And I was just kind of,
Well, do you think people can still have a healthy polyamorous experience with a hierarchical structure?
I think some people can only have a healthy polyamorous experience with a hierarchical structure. Not everybody needs it, and not everybody's going to want it. And the fact that non-hierarchical exists,
sure.
I mean, it works for some people.
Yeah, so it totally makes sense that you'd have like some contrarianism,
for sure.
Especially with polyamory. It's like we're pretty much all contrarianists, right? We've all decided one day we're going to go against the norm and give this wild lifestyle a shot here.
For sure.
So when an alternative to the alternative comes up, the crowd generally will contrary once again.
Right.
And be like, oh, hierarchy.
We've been doing this for so long. There's got to be a better mousetrap now.
Sure, yeah. But you got to remember, this is all, the whole show is nonsense. So really we can make up our own rules.
For sure. And I want to say that if we're going to build a better mousetrap, or however you want to say it, reinvent something in a different way, think about it in a different light, I think that the next thing that comes up as a structured kitchen table poly
sure.
is a really great dynamic to be a part of and to live in and to experience.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of like it's like summer camp, but a little kinkier.
Summer camp, but kinkier. Oh my God.
Yeah. Typically, the kitchen table poly, they'd all live together.
Right.
Right. Where in a hierarchical situation, you may not, your secondary partners may not live on premise.
I think that, we're talking about being contrarian, right? So I think that a lot of times with kitchen table poly, it can happen in a tight-knit polycule that has a lot of together time.
Sure.
I had a relationship in the past where probably for a good year that we were dating, we stayed at their house, me and Rick.
Sure.
More than we stayed in our own apartment.
I know. It's economical. You can save on rent.
You can totally save on rent. You can, everybody can kind of. Also, I have this thing that is kind of an aside for kitchen table polyamory, which is this idea of boardroom polyamory. It's where you're in a polycule, but you're also working, doing businesses and different ideas of entrepreneurship together.
Hey man, you got to have a side hustle these days.
Every 5 different ones, right?
Absolutely. If you don't have a side hustle for every day of the week,
exactly.
What are you even doing?
So, in contrast to kitchen table polyamory, you have parallel polyamory.
Correct.
And what does this work best for?
I don't know. I guess I kind of have this in one of my relationships now where I'm pretty parallel with my metamor.
Right.
Right. And where we haven't even met.
Right.
Yeah. So it's there's no urgency. It's not, we know about each other.
Right.
We say, hey, from a distance.
Yeah.
That's what I feel. So I think that's my experience with parallel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my experience with parallel has been when sometimes when I've taken on a girlfriend who was not also dating my husband.
Sure.
Because we've done it both ways, where I've had just a girlfriend on my own and where I've had a girlfriend with him.
Sure, yeah.
So the girlfriend on my own, she didn't date him. She didn't have anything to do with him more than, in passing at parties or something like that. And it was the same for me with her nesting partner as well. And yeah, it was just parallel.
Sure.
Everybody knows that they're there.
Right.
But they don't interact.
Right. There's no play parties or dates or.
No, not usually.
Not usually.
But sometimes you having lunch or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's solo polyamory.
That's right.
I don't have any experience with because I've been shacked up for so long.
You have been, yeah. On the other side, I definitely feel like I've been doing a little solo poly here. So
sure.
It's you put a focus on your own independence and goals and dreams and making sure that your own mask is on, right? I think this is probably pretty popular for people who've been out of a relationship or through something recently or going through a massive change in their lives.
And the relationship anarchists within that as well.
Yeah, because sometimes, maybe life situation doesn't really lend to creating a lot of hyper established relationships.
Right.
Or being able to even focus on a relationship too much.
Yeah, some people just don't have that in them, but they have people in their life that they want to have relationships with. They just can't commit to it being anything steady. Or they just maybe. So how do you turn the solo part in with the polyamory part?
How do you turn it into it or mix it in?
How does it get mixed in?
It get mixed in when, I would say when you're in love with falling in love.
Yeah.
You just love getting caught up, getting them butterflies and doing all that sort of thing. And you can't really do that with hyper casual relationships where, you're only there for a weekend or two. And
for sure. Yeah. I'll take the NRE large and keep it coming.
Yeah. It's like you put your head under the soft serve machine, you just pouring it on. Double swirl, you know what I mean?
Exactly. So You know, when we're talking about how polyamory works, like communication is like the biggest part of making it work.
Yeah, outside of labels aside, talking about what's going on is more important than anything.
Talking about what you're comfortable with before you're doing it.
It's like that old game telephone where it's like, you say one thing to someone and then it gets a little changed. That can happen constantly. So it's always good to make sure everyone is on the same page.
Yeah, for sure. And then also like coming up with good agreements.
Yeah.
You want to go ahead of time and kind of say, what do you want to do? What are you looking for in a relationship with polyamory to make sure your goals and things are aligned?
Sure.
Because it, like, with everybody having such different dynamics, you never know how that's going to align.
Absolutely.
And so coming to agreements of what you're looking for, making sure that that you two as a couple are aligned, and that your other partners are going to be in alignment with the decision that you're making as well. And then honoring that kind of thing, how you introduce the idea that, oh, this is somebody new I want to see.
Right.
Like, how do you do that? How do you do that?
How do I introduce someone new that I want to see?
Yeah.
Just like skydiving. You just jump out the window and you go, hey, I'm going on a date with somebody new on Tuesday.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's not wrong to do it, but it's wrong to not communicate it.
For sure. So is there like an amount of time that you think works good for in general? Like, I don't like to set absolutes, so keep in mind that I'm not saying that this is how much time you have to use. But is there like an ideal amount of time to speak to someone and get to know them? And then do you meet them first, decide how you feel, and then say something to your existing partners? Or do you just immediately say, I'm into this person, I think I'm going to see them and meet them in person?
I think it depends a lot on the situation, how the energy's going.
Sure.
Like I remember for a point I was talking to this other girl for a while, but I just didn't have the time or capacity to really meet her.
Right.
So I just kept it casual chatting, and I never think I really told you about her because I didn't have any intention to take it any further.
Yeah.
So I think it's like once it's going to affect somebody else.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have been in a marriage relationship with my husband for 24 years, and we started non-monogamous.
Right.
We had an open relationship, and then once we were married, we decided to keep that open as well. There's only been one time in our entire relationship that we shut things down to monogamy, and that was during the pandemic, and that was purely for disease purposes.
Yeah, just for health reasons.
Yeah, my husband is immune compromised, and so we just couldn't really get into it.
COVID
That's
is essentially an STI.
That is another thing that, people definitely need to talk about when they start talking about how does polyamory work, is what kind of agreements do you have with your partners as well as with the new people that you're meeting for sexual health?
Oh yeah, there's a lot of compromise that has to be made.
For sure. I mean, we had a little time at the beginning of our relationship where we were like, okay, let's be responsible and get the test done and make sure that everybody's safe and clean as.
Yeah. They should just do like an ice cream truck and come down the street.
Just test everybody.
Just testing everybody.
For sure.
Just go on out and get a little sample.
So I like this. I like this idea that there's no graduation from this. So we said polyamory 101, but you don't graduate from this.
No.
There's no graduating.
No,
This is ever fluctuating and ever changing.
it is changing because it's like you're not going to always be in the same place you are in life. Times are going to change. We're all getting older, unfortunately. So we have to bend and change with it.
Exactly. And also, there's no right or wrong way to do it as long as everything is consensual and honest and ethical
And well communicated.
and well communicated, then there's really no wrong way to do it. It can look however you want it to. And that's one of the great parts about polyamory.
Absolutely. So if you have more questions about how polyamory works, or you think we missed something here, be sure to let us know in the comments, write us an email, join our Discord, and smoke signals on Sunday.
Exactly. And I think that the Discord server is one of the places where people can interact the most with us directly. I know I personally check into the Discord server at least once a day, sometimes multiple times a day. And
I'm getting better at it.
yes, yeah, we're all getting a little bit better at it. And you are doing such a good job maintaining your time and getting everything kind of squared away. And it's just a good testament of good time management and polyamory, because it was a struggle. So I just wanted to honor you for that.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
And so this has been Modern Polyamory. I'm Jan.
I'm Kyle.
And we are signing off. So have a good one.
You are listening to the Modern Polyamory Podcast, a podcast all about polyamory, ethical non-monogamy, swinging, kinks, and more.